Hello, my friends. Today I want to share with you a story that might completely change the way you listen, not to others, but to life itself. Because sometimes the answers we're searching for are already around us, hidden in the silence we keep avoiding. By the time this story ends, you'll understand why silence is not emptiness. It's direction. So stay with me until the end, take a deep breath, and let this story remind you that life is always speaking, if only you dare to listen. Far away, in a valley surrounded by tall silver mountains, lived a young man named Leo. He was strong, determined, and full of dreams. Since childhood, he had only one goal: to climb the tallest mountain known as the Whispering Peak. It was said that whoever reached its summit would find the wisdom to understand their destiny. For years, Leo trained his body and studied maps, convinced that his life would finally make sense once he conquered that peak. One cold morning, with a small bag and an even bigger dream, Leo began his climb. The path was steep, covered in mist and sharp stones. The higher he went, the colder it became. Yet every time he stumbled, he whispered to himself, "I must keep going, I can't stop now." The wind roared like 1,000 voices around him, and deep inside, Leo felt both fear and excitement, as if the mountain itself was alive and watching him climb. Days passed and Leo grew tired. The food was almost gone, and the silence became heavier. At night, he could hear strange echoes in the distance, whispers that seemed to call his name. Sometimes they sounded kind, like an old friend encouraging him to keep climbing. Other times, they were harsh, like a reminder of every mistake he'd made. But Leo ignored them all. "It's just the wind," he told himself. "Mountains don't speak." Then came the storm. Thunder crashed against the rocks, and rain turned the path into a river of mud. Leo slipped again and again, until finally, exhausted and shivering, he found shelter in a small cave. He sat by the wall, breathing hard, frustrated that his dream seemed so far away. "Why is this so hard?" he shouted into the darkness. "Why can't I hear what life wants from me?" His voice echoed through the cave, but this time something unexpected happened. The echo didn't sound like his own voice. It whispered back, softly, "Because you never stop talking." Leo froze. The words were gentle yet sharp enough to pierce through his thoughts. He looked around, but there was no one there, only the flickering light from his lantern and the steady sound of rain outside. For the first time, Leo didn't speak. He just sat still, letting the silence fill the space between his breaths. That night felt endless, but something inside Leo began to shift. He realized how much of his life had been spent chasing, running, proving, but never listening. The world had been whispering all along, through every failure, every delay, every quiet moment he ignored. The whispers were not there to scare him, but to guide him. He had mistaken silence for emptiness, when in truth, silence was the language of wisdom. As dawn arrived, the storm finally calmed. Leo stepped out of the cave, the sky glowing with the first light of day. The mountain air was fresh, and everything seemed new. He looked around and noticed the details he had missed before, the way the wind bent the grass, the rhythm of melting snow, the echo of a distant bird. It all felt alive, as if the mountain itself was breathing with him. He smiled and whispered, "I hear you now." Leo continued his climb, but this time he wasn't rushing. Each step was slower, more aware, more grateful. The summit didn't seem like a destination anymore. It was just part of the journey. He began to understand that the mountain's whispers were not mystical voices. They were reflections of his own soul. Life had been speaking through the silence all along. He had just been too busy to notice. By the time Leo reached the top, the world below stretched endlessly, wrapped in clouds of gold. He stood there quietly, feeling something he had never felt before: peace. not because he conquered the mountain, but because he finally understood it. The peak didn't offer him answers or prophecies. It simply mirrored what was already inside him. The truth that life doesn't shout, it whispers, and only those who learn to be still can truly hear it. As the wind brushed his face, Leo closed his eyes and smiled. For the first time in his life, he didn't ask for more. He didn't demand clarity, success, or validation. He simply listened, and in that silence, he found everything he'd been searching for. In the endless cacophony of our modern world, we are taught to speak, to project, to fill every void with noise. But what if the greatest wisdom isn't found in what is said, but in what is left unsaid? For millennia, mystics, philosophers, and thinkers have sought refuge in silence, not as an absence of sound, but as a presence of something deeper. It is in the quiet moments between the notes that music finds its meaning. It is in the stillness of the mind that clarity emerges from chaos. Silence is the canvas upon which the universe paints its most profound truths. It is a space for reflection, for understanding, and for connecting with the very essence of our being. Perhaps, then, the most crucial lesson we can learn is not how to make our voices heard, but how to truly listen to the silence. For within its depths lies a wisdom that no words can ever capture. If you're inspired by this journey into quiet contemplation, share this video and let's spread the profound wisdom of listening to silence.